Hey everyone, it's Adam Grant. I am about to be here with Brené Brown. Let me just add her and we will kick off in just a second. I have not done an Instagram Live in a long time and there she is. Hit it.
Hi,
Hey Brené.
I see you in your lion shirt.
Definitely gonna milk this as long as it lasts.
Seize the moment, brother. Seize the moment.
Welcome back to social media.
Thank you.
We've missed
I think.
you. A friend just asked me yesterday, when do we get to see Brené again? And
Here
here you
I
are.
am with you and the paperback, which I thought this was a good time to read again, think again.
Well, you might want to rethink that decision.
No, it kicked my ass in new ways.
Really? I'm curious to hear more. What are you rethinking right now?
Oh, you're not going to like it.
Then tell me. I feel like we haven't had a good fight in months, so I'm overdue.
I'm rethinking based on my own experience deep inside organizations. I'm rethinking remote work.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm not thinking everybody goes back all the time. I'm thinking more about I'm thinking the solution is the thing that we don't do well, which is nuanced hybrid. Getting really intentional and selective about when we need to come together and when we don't, when we can be as productive or more productive at home. But I'm thinking, you know what it is for me? It's a task conflict versus emotional conflict in the ideation and creating and strategy making issue. And so I've been working deep inside an organization for the last year. It's been so much fun. We're taking 27,000 people through Dare to Lead. And it's been really fun. And also talking to a lot of other leaders outside of that company and hearing similar struggles, which is, as you and I both know, and you write about a lot, and not just in Think Again, but especially in Think Again, tension is the birthplace of creativity, innovation, good strategy, good decision making. And when we're together and you look at me and you say, I'm not doing it, this makes no sense to me, and we're in person, and I lean towards you and say, okay, dude, you have a lot of energy around this. I care so much about your opinion. I want to hear it. I just don't understand what the resistance is. And am I missing something? I don't know what's going on, but I need to hear from you what you're thinking. That's really productive task conflict. And that can slip into emotional conflict, which is the death knell for creativity and innovation. That task conflict on Zoom or on Teams or whatever you're using, it just happens so quick.
So interesting. So why am I not going to like this?
Well, the story I make up, there are not a lot of persuasive data around compelling people to return to work at all. And so I'll just stop there. Like, what are your thoughts about the intentional hybrid?
It's actually exactly where I've landed from all the evidence I've read. So
What?
yeah, no, I think fully remote is hard in a lot of ways for a lot of people. It's especially hard for building and maintaining a sense of culture and community. And I think, there's some organizations that have tried to solve that by saying, all right, what we'll do is we'll just do, organizational retreats every so often. But that's not actually the same as building what psychologists call task cohesion around, working together for a common mission where everybody has a unique contribution to make. And like, we've all experienced the joy and the high of feeling like we're part of a team, and it's really hard to substitute for that when we're not co-located ever, or when we only do it occasionally. I think Nick Bloom's research is is so clear and compelling, suggesting that if you go fully remote, there's also a proximity bias problem, that you're less likely to get promoted, you lose face time with people. Whereas if we're hybrid, I think the steady state seems to be people are going to the office 3 to 4 days a week, and then they're flexible to work from anywhere the rest of the time. That seems reasonable to me, but I love your specific hypothesis. I want to test this. Is it harder to have a good task conflict remotely? Is it harder to do what you call rumbling, where we're going to disagree about ideas and visions and strategies and decisions, but still respect each other and want to learn from each other, as opposed to going right at each other's throats? Because I will say, okay, and this is maybe where you were anticipating me going. I will say that one thing I like about remote is the chat window. Like it enables easy brain writing where we can share our thoughts independently. And sometimes I've found, especially when teaching virtual classes, but some of my virtual collaborations with podcast team, for example, like we ask a bunch of people to answer a question in the chat, and you can immediately surface where the task conflicts are.
True.
And then talk about them. Whereas when you get together in a room, it's very often the loudest extrovert or the person with the most power or status who dominates the conversation. And then you don't surface the diversity of thought and difference of opinion. And that seems like a problem too. So I wonder if there's also a version of intentional virtual collaboration that surfaces task conflict. But I buy your point that being co-located physically makes it easier to have a good one once you've identified it.
Okay, I'm going to push back.
Please.
First of all, is it echoey when I talk?
A little, but I can hear you.
Because I'm in a big room as opposed to the podcast room, and I can walk over there if that's helpful.
No, I think you're fine.
I can take you with me. Okay, a couple of things. We should not depend on technology to create more equitable spaces where ideas are heard from other people. I think the role of a leader in those in a room where we're having a meeting is to create the space and make sure that people are heard and respected and valued. And so I don't like the idea of depending on that, and I've seen it so much. And so I think you're right that you hear from people you don't hear from normally. In when you're co-located, you hear from people more when they're on chat. We need to fix that, because that's a systemic problem that is, in my opinion, a failure of leadership.
I think that's a really good point. You're right. Technology is not a substitute for
No,
leadership.
and I think someone should say, hey, I really appreciate all the energy you have around this. What I'm really interested in hearing is from Barrett, who to me has we would say a point of view, a POV that's really valuable in here. Can we hear from you, Barrett, on this? Do you need some time? What is your thinking? And so a lot of times what I've started doing now in meetings with people who are adding so much value on chat but not doing it in physical meetings is I'm actually asking them to come 10 or 15 minutes early and doing some coaching with them and just saying, I want to hear from you. This team needs to hear from you. What does support look like from me? And like one example that we did recently with someone who, man, she just has such good, I mean, she rarely speaks, and when she does, everybody goes, whoa. And one of the things that she said is stopping her from speaking in the meetings was that she did not have all the data right at her fingertips. And she's a very, very analytical person. So I said, can you just start by saying, I don't have the data in front of me, but based on my experience, this is what I believe would be the best course of action. And now she's just like, so yeah. That's the only thing I'm really, I mean, not the only thing. It's one of the things I'm thinking again. Can I ask you some questions?
I mean, if you insist, but I want to react to that for a second, because I think you're spot on, and I've often found myself doing that coaching in real time, and sometimes just using the chat window where I'll send a private message to someone and say, hey, I noticed you've been really quiet and you have a thoughtful perspective on this. I want everyone else in the room to benefit from it. And then I'm giving them a heads up so that they have a chance to prepare. And so often that surfaces, what they think is the silent minority opinion that's actually the quiet majority.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say it, and it's value laden, and don't get all pissed off in the comments, but it's often the right solution.
Well put. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have answers, but I'll have thoughts for sure, and maybe questions back at you. Did you really read this book a second time?
Did.
Okay. So you've read it more recently than I have, which means I want to know what I should rethink from what I wrote. I mean, it came out 3 years ago now, so there's been a lot of rethinking since then. So I'm going to ask you about that. I'm just warning you right now, but you go first.
Okay. I'm going to actually start. Hold on just a sec.
And while Brené's looking, let me just say to everyone, put your questions in also in the comments, and we'll try to catch a few as we talk. Since we've been practicing multitasking with the chat and real conversation since 2020, we should be good at it by now. And then we'll also have our teams go through later and see if there's anything that might be interesting for follow-up.
Okay. One of the things I'm really rethinking right now, is what is mindset and what is skill set. And I'm not a fan of the false dichotomy of those things. I'm not gonna pull for a team on the field that has amazing skills but not the mindset to win. And I don't give a shit how great your mindset to win is if you don't have the skills. If you can't make the shots, you know, whatever. So, and I want to make sure everyone's listening. Okay. So this quote here, I have a question about it. It's early on, and I got snagged by it the first time I read it, but really got snagged by it this time. It's in the prologue. I'll read the quote to you. I'll read you to you. We favor the comfort of conviction over the discomfort of doubt, and we let our beliefs get brittle long before our bones. We laugh at people who still use Windows 95, yet we cling to the opinions that we formed in 1995. We listen to the views that make us feel good instead of the ideas that make us think hard. So to me, the synergy between our work is really in what you pause it and think again. And it's the thread in all your work, really. Open your mind and open your heart, kind of, you know, to be, you know, that's what intelligence maybe really is. And for us, we would say, don't be a knower, be a learner, commit to getting it right, not being right. What I want to know from you is, do you think that people who can let go of old beliefs and old ideas and be learners, do you think it's a mindset, a skill set, or both?
It has to be both, doesn't it? I mean, you called it a false dichotomy earlier. I have the same reaction. I think, look, without the will, the skills don't get used. I think without the skills, the will goes nowhere. I guess maybe there's a chicken and the egg conversation about which comes first, which is interesting. I think probably the will drives the skill building more than vice versa, but there might be a feedback loop there.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the challenge of all of this is something that you put on my radar that I think I missed in Think Again, which is the courage required to question beliefs that you held dear, and abandon some of your most treasured opinions, and then especially to do that out loud and let other people see you think out loud, and just walk away from things that you supposedly stood by. I don't even know if I used the word courage in the book. I clearly should have, because I think it's the overwhelming theme of what's actually required to be an effective and consistent rethinker. And I think, and this is a hunch, I think that we probably think about courage mostly as well, and we underappreciate the skills involved in being courageous. Is that fair?
Yes. Okay, I think people are having a hard time hearing me. Watch me walk and talk. Watch me walk and talk, folks. Hey, welcome to my office. I'm going to walk and talk with y'all. And I'm going to get really close. I'm probably going to make you seasick. Okay, I do think courage is a big part of it. I do think the feedback loop exists. Hold on, I'm going into the podcast room where I know everything is really good. Hold on, y'all.
We can also pause and restart if
No,
that's easier.
sorry for making y'all seasick. I'm not a good walker and talker. Okay, is that better?
I don't know. Keep talking. We'll find out.
Um,
I think it's better, but I want to know about the skills for courage, what those look like.
well, there are definitely 4 skill sets for courage. They're teachable, learnable, observable. I think if I could put your book on a thumb drive and stick it in people's arms, it would make my work a lot easier, because you write something, and I actually have this on a Post-it note in my house, but I'm at the office right now. Where is this quote? It's like, it makes me weepy, this quote. Yeah. Hold on. Oh, it's something. Do you know where it is? You won't know where it is. I've read this more than you have.
I might have a hunch. I don't know.
Okay, here it is. I found it. Did I find it? The value quote. Here it is.
Oh, is this okay, wait a minute. Is this chapter 3?
I don't know. It's page 64. It's
Who you are is not it's something like who you are is not a function of what you believe, but what you value.
Right. Who you are is not a function of what you believe, but what you value. And so I think in the work that I do in organizations, the biggest collective aha people have is when they shift, and I cite your work a lot. I'll give you a $5 next time I see you. I think they connect their value and identity to being someone who supports and believes this, rather than I value myself as curious. I value myself as a learner.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly.
Say more.
Yeah, no, I think people are constantly confusing beliefs and values. So I think about beliefs as the opinions that you think are true, and values as the principles that you see as important. And so for me, the easiest example of this is I think about medicine before we had evidence. Like you had these doctors walking around and saying, Brené, you seem to be a little bit anxious today, and you seem to be anxious a lot of days. Maybe we should give you a frontal lobotomy. Okay, so
It's
physician,
crossed my mind.
I would not recommend it to you or anyone else I care about, but like that physician is in big trouble if he starts to see himself or she starts to see herself as a professional lobotomist, right? And say like, I am someone who believes that this is an effective intervention, because the moment the evidence comes out that this is a barbaric thing to do to human beings, they're going to experience a threat to their identity. If instead they identify as somebody who wants to help heal patients, who wants to treat diseases, who wants to cure problems, then they get to stay open-minded about, well, what's the best way to advance those principles? And that's where I want to get people as often as possible. And I love the way that you captured it, because yeah, if your values are, I'm curious, I'm a learner, then you could be told that anything you believe is wrong, and you'd say, cool, I just discovered something new.
I mean, that's it. And someone on comments put something that I loved. They just wrote the word ego. And how often, I mean, when I look at leaders today, especially leaders who are in organizations undergoing massive digital transformation, where, let's go back. Let's talk about where another place where this work completely intersects with my work, which is shame. The biggest shame trigger at work is the fear of being irrelevant. And people think that you know, it's this crazy cycle that people say, wow, we're changing everything. Everything's new now. I'm not going to matter. My value add is not there. My contributions don't matter. Then they cross their arms across their chest and they say, screw it. I'm not learning anything else. That's not the way we ever did it around here. Then their fear of being irrelevant becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as opposed to people who say, I know my value and I'm excited to learn what's new and what's happening and what we're doing. I'm a little scared, but I'm excited to learn it, because the people that have the ability to change their minds, to think again, and retain organizational history and knowledge are the most valuable employees in the world.
Yeah, and I think that's going to become more true over time.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, I sat down to write this book. There was no pandemic. There was no explosion of artificial intelligence. There weren't all these forces that were accelerating the pace of change in the world that we see now. And like, yeah, you know what? If you define yourself by the expertise you had yesterday, you are committing to become obsolete tomorrow.
That's it.
I mean, in a changing world, you don't want to stick to your best practices. You want to look for better practices. And that means you anticipate how the world is evolving and you evolve with it. And to me, that's so much fun,
Yeah.
because it allows you to take these changes that could be extremely disruptive and destabilizing and unsettling to you, and say, all right, that's not a threat to my ego. That's an opportunity for growth.
Huge. And God, do I love the folks. And I have to tell you, sometimes you see these folks less in the C-suite and more on the factory floor. And, you know, the people who say, yeah, you'll say to them, like, are you afraid of AI? No, I've really been playing with it a lot. Here's where I think it could add some value. And here's where I think it's just not aligned with what we're doing. And you're like, whoa, because if your commitment is to a skill set versus a commitment to creating more mastery and greater skill sets, you're doomed right now. Like if I was going to write Dare to Lead again, which what year did Think Again come out in?
2021.
I don't even remember when Dare to Lead came
out.
Dare
to Lead was a few years before, right?
I think it may be 2020. I don't remember. But if I wrote it today, it'd be like Dare to Lead, subtitle, strap yourself in. You know, it was pre-COVID. It was pre, the murder of George Floyd. It was pre-racial reckoning. It was, which was long overdue and not done, folks. I would just have a different conversation. The core is, the skill sets remain true, but the context that we work in has changed. And man, that fragile ego protection is like a kiss of death. Oh, thank you. Someone just said 2018. Damn, girl.
They're on top of it.
That was a long time ago. Yeah. So I think, and we've had to change a lot of Dare to Lead. We've gone and we actually just redid it the end of last year. And so really trying to deal with things like conflict over Zoom and,
So I love that you've been rethinking Dare to Lead, because I feel like most of the people whose wisdom I've admired over the years, they do a project, they put the book out into the world, or they release the TED Talk, and then they move on and they're done. And I get it. You don't want to become typecast. You get tired of your old ideas. You're excited to tackle something new. It's more fun. There's more creativity, more learning. It feels like a bigger contribution to you. But I also, there's a part of me that thinks when you put an idea out into the world, you have a responsibility to, I guess I think about it a little bit like the maintenance part of life. Like you have to tend to it and make sure it still holds up. So what's the biggest thing you've rethought with Dare to Lead?
Well, for me, it's an ethics issue because as a grounded theory researcher, I put a theory into the world about courage being these 4 teachable, observable skill sets. And in grounded theory, the big ethos is a theory is only as good as its ability to work new data. And so we just celebrated last year 100,000 people across the world going through Dare to Lead. And we have all of that outcome data and all that evaluation data. And then I'm doing new research on new constructs like mental toughness and grounded competence. And so I think when I found it, there's no such thing as a safe space. And then we went from safe space to brave space. And then the folks working in that area said, look, I'm Black, I'm showing up at work. That's a brave space. I'm all braved up. Like, you know, and then I went to now some of the new work being done on accountable spaces, you know, and learning a ton from Iko Bethia on, are you accountable when your intentions are not aligned with your actions? And it doesn't, you know, and so I've changed my thinking. Look, I'm lucky that I was raised by a wild pack of academics in some ways, because
I thought you were going
when,
to say wolves,
well,
but
I
that
was
works too.
actually raised by a wild pack of Jesuits, but I think what I was raised to believe, and the Jesuits were like this a little bit too, that the more you're willing to critique your work and talk about the limitations of it and look for fault lines, the more I trust you. And you talk about it in your book as thinking like a scientist. And I remember when I submitted an article with a friend as a doctoral student, and we got back the feedback that said, we're going to let you review, resubmit this after some stuff. The only thing we like is your limitations section, because you are so hard on yourself. We appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
so I was taught to believe if you acknowledge the limitations of what you're putting into the world, you're more trustworthy. But yet now, like, I look at folks on social media who are as adamant as they are uninformed. What the heck? I mean, what the heck? I'm asking.
I mean, we should talk about rethinking how we interact on social media. I read the post you did yesterday, which I thought was beautiful and a little bit heartbreaking. I thought one of the most striking parts of it was you as someone who, I mean, just look at the comments right now. All these people saying, "Oh my gosh, Brené, we've missed you so much. Where have you been? I need a pocket Brené to carry around and remind me of these things."
I was hiding.
The fact that you have an incredible, adoring audience of disciples, and you've been driven away from social media by trolls and toxic comments. That says to me, obviously, we know social media is flawed in a lot of ways, but also the way that we engage with each other is fundamentally broken. Fundamentally broken. So I guess what I want to ask you about is, like, what do you want to see change? Like, we've known each other for a while now. I think, well, okay, let me say it this way. I was unprepared for how deeply it cuts you when somebody leaves a nasty comment on social. And I wanted to hear more about why and what we can do about it.
Wait, can I play back your question, what you said? Because I may be mishearing it out of my own fear and anxiety. Are you saying that you were surprised that I'm as affected, or you were surprised that you are affected by it?
I was surprised that you were so affected.
Oh, God.
Like, I think of you as having a combination, I guess, of like courage and armor that leads you to shake off. Like, somebody says something ridiculous. Okay, I'm not going to pay attention to that. Let me focus on the, what worst case scenario, there might be 1,000 hateful comments and 100,000 likes. So of course, I'm going to focus on the fact that most people really appreciated this message, and there were some people who took it poorly and reacted really poorly. And I read your essay and said, that is not your emotional life.
So I think, I mean, I think my barometer was broken for sure. And I am not at all really very affected by shitty comments when I make a stand about something I believe in. And I can get some really hard comments back because a lot of people will say, or things like, your work really helped me through the hardest part of my life. How can you take this stand around this political issue? And what is coming back at me is betrayal. And so there's a lot of projection. I don't mind that so much. I mean, I don't post something about my beliefs on immigration and think that it's going to go well. Like, that's not the thing. The thing that really, the thing that floored me, and it probably speaks to my ego and my number oneness on the Enneagram, is I'm a rules person. And I know the rule is if I post something politically controversial, people are going to hate me. Now, the hard part is they'll threaten me. There'll be a lot of threats of sexual violence. They'll threaten my family. So it gets kind of nutty, and there's a lot of gender stuff in there that's hard. That I can be like, okay, well, Shrek only has an 80% Rotten Tomatoes, so we know that not everybody in the world is sane, right? So the part that was hard for me, that started last year during a difficult time in my life, caregiving for my mom, was people saying untrue things like Brené makes her money by pulling people on stage and making them vulnerable. And I'm like, wait, I've never done that in my life. In fact, if someone shares something vulnerable on the podcast, we actually have to make the hard call to say, listen, we're not going to share this because we can't protect you. And there's a lot of people that listen to it. Like, so when people make up stuff about me or my work, and I can kind of get tough, but I watch it destroy the team here that works every day to make the right next decision all the time. I was just like, I don't understand the rules anymore. You can dislike. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, listen, I don't want to be liked by everybody because I know a lot of the shit that people like, and I do not want to be in that camp. But I think and you've had this, I'm sure, when people say things about you that are untrue.
Yeah.
And I can't defend myself because then you're giving in. I didn't know really how to do that.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So I see some people in the comments saying, she's human. Yes, of course you're human, but you also have some superpowers. And one of the reasons that I think people have been so moved by Rising Strong, for example, is because you live it, right? You don't just study it. You don't just write about it. And so I think it's always jarring to see people that you look up to as a role model on a particular skill or virtue, then say, actually, this one has been hard for me lately. But yeah, I completely relate to I love criticism when it's accurate.
Same.
But if it's completely unfounded in reality, it feels like it feels cruel and unjust, and that's really hard, especially because you have a responsibility to a team.
That's the problem. And opportunity. Yeah. It's like you're trying to build your platform by putting your foot on my neck. Like, just do your own work, make your own contribution. And so, but I think I've gotten better because, I mean, if anyone wondered, like, I've got big feelings and they can get hurt. But when I feel like I can't protect my team, that's like, those are hard get out of bed days for me.
Yeah,
just to be honest.
I mean, that's a core values violation.
It's a core values violation. I can't protect people who spend every day making sure we're doing the next right thing. And I think that's really, but I think that's the world we live in. And I don't know I can't make any assumptions about people's intentions. And I also cannot connect my well-being to other people not acting like assholes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the point that I was thinking about is so much of this is different in real life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, there was this amazing paper by Michael Bang Peterson that I read a year or two ago now, showing that it's not just being online that makes people act like jerks. The issue is that people who are assholes online are assholes in real life too. Only in real life. Like,
I think that's true.
I mean, but the difference is in real life, they get feedback or they get ostracized. And we don't hear from them repeatedly, whereas online they get amplified. And so
Oh my God, because it's good for the platform.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you see this whole group of trolls who use aggression to get attention, and attacking Brené Brown is, a strategy for some people to get attention. What I think is intriguing about this, though, is that in real life, if somebody said that same thing to you, it would be easier to blow off at some level, I think.
No,
And
I think
there's
if they
some.
said it in real life, I think that's what's different. I think if they said something in real life that was fundamentally untrue yet important to me, I would say it's really hard to hear that's your perception of what's happening. Can I just get curious about it and ask you some questions? I
You're
really
not going to do
would.
that online.
No, I'm like, fuck you. And then I cry. I mean, just to be honest with you, it's like I because that same team that makes sure that we're doing the next right thing says you can't pay attention to this. You can't respond to this, you know, and I think it's true. I'm just I think the work of midlife for me and maybe for a lot of us in midlife is trying to be more curious than we are defended and trying to straddle the tension of those paradoxes in life, right? And I'm just not, I just took, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I just took the Daring Leadership Assessment, which is the 4 skill set assessment. My scores were lower than they've ever been in my life. And I'm coming out of a hard time where I had to do some caregiving for my mom and she died and it's been tough. But I took it so I could use it to show people what the assessment looked like. Then I was like, oh my God, let me go back and take it and I know the answers and I can get the better score. But then I was like, no, I'm going to show them that I'm in a place that I'm in a season right now where trust is a really hard thing for me because I got a lot of do it myself energy. My
Oh yeah.
self-trust is kind of low.
Yes.
So I just think learning how to be in the world today, not just on social, but at work, as a leader, as a social scientist, completely depends on my ability to think again.
Okay. A few reactions. First and most importantly, I know I speak for everyone listening when I say I was so sad to see about your mom.
Thank you.
Could not be more sorry for your loss. And um, you don't have, you only have an on-off switch. Like, you don't do anything halfway. And so when you say you took some time to caregive for your mom, I know that means you were all in. And I hope she appreciated that. Um, Secondly, I think I love your statement that this is the work of midlife, but why do we have to limit it to midlife? I guess would be
Yeah.
my question back. Like, I want our students to do this. I want our kids to think about this. And third, you're modeling something right now, actually, that I've been thinking a lot about, which is Dan Harris gave me some feedback a while back that I need to work on vulnerability.
Mm.
And I was like, Dan, what do you mean? I just told you a story about something really embarrassing that happened to me. And we've talked about a whole bunch of my failures over the course of this conversation. And Dan said, yeah, but they all happened in the past. And they don't hurt you anymore. I'm like, yes, of course, because now I know the lesson. And so there's a purpose for sharing this story. Like, I'm trying to teach something from my own struggles. And Dan said, did it ever occur to you that sharing your struggles is a lesson in and of itself, and that it signals to people that they're not alone? Never crossed my mind. But this is this is one of those things that you do consistently is I feel like you open up about the hard work as you're doing it, not just after you've finished it. And I think that's such an important skill.
Oh man, I I'm not sure about that, honestly.
You did
I,
it yesterday. You're doing it right
no,
now.
no, I
I beg to
mean,
differ.
I I am
I think
very
you should rethink that
no,
reaction.
I am very careful. Let me say something really important. I am very, very careful and encourage other people to be the same way, to not share. I do not share my heart with people when their reaction can affect me. And so if I'm going to share the story that I shared on social, I mean, I wrote an article on my website about the last year, a couple of years. I have done a ton of work with that. I am not raw around that. And my healing is in no way contingent upon how people respond to that. Now there are some people in my life that I will be vulnerable with before the lesson, before the learning, when I am scraping and clawing to find the learning and the lesson, and I'm just in hurt and trying to figure out what does this mean. But that is never the public, ever. And I would tell people who are watching this that we share stories with people who've earned the right to hear them. Now, you've been on the receiving end of a call or a text from me when I was in the scramble and hurting, but I trust you. We're friends. And I said, listen, I'm struggling around this. I'm having a hard time. Does this thing that I'm thinking check out with you? But in order to, when I go on stage and share a story about work or share a story about my life, there are 20 or 30 hours of therapy time logged in before that's public.
Wow.
You don't get my heart in your hands. You can have my story. I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I'm going to be honest with my community, but I am not going to be intimate with them.
All right. You just made me think again. I stand corrected.
Yeah. And I actually respect and experience, I experience you as a pretty vulnerable person, especially for the fact that you have a pretty uptight academic upbringing. I mean, you do.
Did you
And
say uptight?
yeah, you do. You do. I mean, you're in a hard place. I mean, Wharton's a tough place, and you come out of a field that's tougher than my field, not in terms of rigor, but in terms of what the environment's like. I think I've been in business schools, I've been in psych departments. Yikes! I I think I experience you as a pretty vulnerable person, and I don't think sharing in the midst of it is the litmus test.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that may be true. It may also be the case I'm just more vulnerable with you because you're the queen of vulnerability. And not being vulnerable with Brené Brown would be an epic life fail. Let's just be clear.
You would hear about it for sure.
Definitely.
Yes, I mean, yeah, but I don't know, but I experienced you like, I don't want to confuse two constructs, humility and vulnerability, different constructs, right?
Totally.
But I would say related in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in my experience, you have both.
Well, thank you. I will try to earn that. I think we're overdue to wrap up because we're over time. So I don't want to keep us any longer, but let me say a couple of things as we close. First one is I want to thank Barnes and Noble for bringing us together. They were very kind to pick Think Again as their book of January, and I hope we haven't made them rethink that decision.
Love.
But they suggested this Instagram Live. I never do Instagrams Live. You haven't been on Instagram in forever, and here we are. So thanks to BNN for that. And then Brené, you always say yes when it matters, and I think that's one of my favorite qualities of yours is you're very quick to say no to irrelevant things, and you take boundaries very seriously. You practice them just like you teach them. but you always show up when it counts. And I think that's a pretty good recipe for life. So I've learned a lot from that. Grateful to have you as a friend, but especially grateful that you're kind of back on social media. And let me turn it over to you. Would love to hear, where are we going to see you and find you moving forward? Is there a book coming? Is the podcast rebooting? Are you not ready to announce any of this? Tell us.
Yeah, I am flirting with both. More books and another podcast. I'm super grateful to Barnes and Noble. Thank you for this. I like the fact that there's a Barnes and Noble book right here, our monthly pick, and then I'm down here, so all three of us are together on the book. I really do love this book, and I would talk about it with you anytime, anywhere. And I feel the same way about you. I've asked you, I need some help with somebody, I need some support. Can you do this with me? And you're like, what time? Let's go. So I'm grateful for our friendship. We have a new content stream called the ABK Edit on BrenéBrown.com. It just launched yesterday. It's really exciting. It's about amplifying people's work who are being brave with their lives and brave with their work. So that's fun. So check that out. And actually, this is my second day on social. So it's a yes, but it was also, we picked the date to go back because I said, I'm going to write the article about where I've been, and then I want to do Adam the next day. Because it'll make me feel safer. So I'm grateful because I wouldn't say that about everybody. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for doing it. Welcome back. And everyone who's joined us today, thanks for being here. And frankly, it's seeing all the questions and comments in the chat that make us want to be on social media despite the trolls. So thank you for the questions, for the love, and also for challenging us, which we always get a kick out of.
I'm not going to say anything about your t-shirt except for
Go Lions.
That's not what this means, but okay.